top of the page, followed by licensing classes halfway down the next page on the left-hand side for more information. Now, here are the topics we will be covering in today's webinar. How and when to submit a retail liquor alteration or added activity. If you have any questions regarding non-retail liquor alterations, those will be covered in a future webinar. For this webinar, we will be focusing solely on retail liquor alterations and added activities. We will go over requirements when submitting an alteration for outside service or a sidewalk cafe. We will also discuss the difference between an outside service area and a sidewalk cafe. We will discuss what to do when requesting one-time only events at your licensed premise and whether that requires an alteration request. Changing your license type, also commonly known as upgrading or downgrading, will be discussed. Restricting minors from your premise. Requesting live entertainment, which includes music, comedy shows, and karaoke. And finally, we will go over alcohol delivery as well as internet sales. We will begin by discussing what a liquor alteration actually is. Simply put, it is the act of changing something on your liquor licensed premise. Most of the time, this involves a physical change of some kind, such as removing a wall from your restaurant. The most common alteration requests we receive have to do with adding outside service, adding a sidewalk cafe, upgrading or downgrading your license type, expanding the floor space of your premise, and restricting minors from your premise.
Yes, because she told me she just today at lunch she had applied for a job in Amsterdam, and Maui.
When submitting,
I think where the job comes from.
Yeah, and she told me that Greg dropping her from her.
Could you, whoever is speaking, would you please mute? When submitting a liquor alteration request, please send the request to our liquor alterations email, liquoralterations@lcb.wa.gov. You can send any questions you have regarding alterations to this email as well. There are no fees required when submitting an alteration request initially. However, we may request additional fees if an upgrade is necessary in order to approve your alteration request. We will discuss instances of what would require an upgrade later on in the presentation. After receipt of an alteration request, the LCB will send an initial email confirming receipt of your alteration request within 5 business days. The processing time is 2 to 3 weeks from the time we send the initial email. Keep an eye on your email as we may request more documents to be sent to us in order to approve your alteration. If we do not receive these documents in a timely manner, the alteration request may be withdrawn. So make sure that you are checking your spam or junk folders for possible emails from the LCB regarding your alteration. Here is a copy of the liquor alteration request form. The form is available on our website. You can write down the link we have provided on this slide if you would like. The minimum requirements we need met when submitting an alteration request are as follows. We need the form to be filled out completely. Your alteration request needs to be accompanied by 2 sets of floor plans as well as photos of the licensed premise. All the requirements for floor plans and photos are listed on the form, but we will go more in depth over the next couple of slides regarding those requirements. Finally, as I mentioned earlier, the LCB's licensing division will make an initial response to your alteration request, within 5 business days of receipt. If you would like more information regarding when to submit an alteration request, you can refer to WAC 314-03-300 on our legislative website, leg.wa.gov. Floor plan requirements are as follows. They need to be drawn 1/4 inch to 1 foot scale. And as I start listing off the required inclusions, only include the spaces that are applicable to your restaurant. For example, if you don't have a dance floor, we're not expecting you to mention that on your floor plan. Having said that, your floor plans will need to include dimensions of the walls, dining area, lounge or bar area, openings to the lounge or bar, game rooms, dance floors, and openings into the outside service area.
Yes.
We need a north arrow indicator on the floor plans. We also need the location of all public entrances into your premises. Make sure that you designate access points such as streets, alleyways, parking lots, and street names. Make sure that you are labeling each area on your floor plan. We need to know where the dining areas are, as well as the lounge, tap rooms, game rooms, restrooms, offices, storage areas. The more information you give us, the smoother the process will be for all parties involved. Finally, if you have any outside service areas, you will need to make sure and include those on your floor plan as well. Now, when we say outside service areas, we are referring to patios, decks, beer gardens, etc. Photo requirements are as follows. We need a close-up photo approximately 5 feet away and a medium-range photo approximately 15 to 20 feet away for each of these areas. Again, only include the spaces that are applicable to your alteration request. For example, if you don't have an outside service area, we are not expecting you to send us photos of the outside of your restaurant. Having said that, here are the photo requirements when submitting your alteration. We need photos of the bar or lounge area to include the back of the bar. We will need to see the taps, sinks, work areas, etc. The front of the bar, make sure to include stools or seats if there is seating at the table or at the bar. Pictures of the taps if they are elsewhere. Entry points into the area. Barriers showing the separation of the area from dining. Hallways and other common spaces. And a distance shot showing how the barrier sits in the space, and a close-up shot showing us how high it is using a measuring device, such as a tape measure. The barrier must be at least 42 inches high. Now, if you have game areas in your restaurant, you must send photos showing you have barriers up around the game area and showing that they're at least 42 inches high. We will discuss game areas and what would be considered a game area more in depth later on in the presentation. Photo requirements for outside service areas or sidewalk cafes are as follows. Similarly to the lounge photo requirements, we would like a distance shot to show how the barrier sits, as well as a close-up shot showing it is 42 inches or higher using a measuring device. We also need a photo showing the view from inside, showing the overall view of the outside seating area or sidewalk cafe. Finally, photos of any openings or entrances into the outside service area are required when submitting your alteration request. And just a reminder, make sure that you have your phones muted if you are just joining the WebEx. Thank you very much. Now, it's time to go over some common alteration requests and requirements. First off, we have outside service. Requirements for outside service are as follows. The outside service area must be connected to the licensed premise and have an interior access from the outside area. If the interior access is minor restricted, then minors are prohibited from entering the outside service area. There must be a staff member dedicated to the outside service area when patrons are present. Now, I want to clarify and make sure that you understand. If nobody is outside, no staff members are required to watch the outside area. You must be able to show that you have leasehold rights to the outside area. Because of this, a copy of a lease agreement must also be provided when submitting your alteration request. Lastly, openings into and out of the outside area cannot exceed 10 feet. And if there is more than one opening along one side, the total combined opening may not exceed 10 feet. Refer to WAC 314-03-200 for more information regarding outside service requirements. Now it's time to talk about requirements regarding sidewalk cafes. First, I want to make sure that you understand that you must provide a copy of the local sidewalk cafe permit with your alteration request. Cities or counties must have a sidewalk cafe permit or something equivalent in order for the LCB to issue permission for sidewalk cafe.
No, I was trying to figure out how to
If your city or county does not yet have this permit available, you will need to work with them prior to applying with the LCB. A staff member must be dedicated to the outside area when patrons are present, similarly to outside service. However, when there are no patrons in the sidewalk cafe area, there does not need to be a staff member designated to that area. A 42-inch barrier or permanent demarcation of the designated alcohol service area is required. Demarcation only applies to restaurant liquor licenses with sidewalk cafe service areas contiguous to the liquor licensed premises. Now, when we say contiguous, we mean touching along a boundary or at a point. The diagram on the next slide will give examples of what we are referring to. To find out if your city or county allows for demarcation, contact them and they will be able to let you know that information. Now, this does not apply to beer gardens, standing room only venues, and permitted special events. Board approval is still required for sidewalk cafe barrier requirements. If you would like more information regarding sidewalk cafe requirements, refer to WAC 314-03-200. Here is the diagram showing the differences between a sidewalk cafe and outside seating. Examples 1 and 4 are examples of a sidewalk cafe, and demarcation would be okay in these scenarios, as long as your city or county allows for demarcation. Examples 2 and 3 are examples of outside seating. It is important to understand that if you are not actually impeding on a city-owned sidewalk, your outside service area would not be considered a sidewalk cafe. Okay, time to discuss one-time only events, such as a summer barbecue, or a grand opening. You will not be required to submit an alteration request for your one-time only event. However, you are required to be on the liquor licensee's property, contiguous with the licensed premises, and you must get permission from your enforcement officer at least 5 days prior to your event. Refer to WAC 314-03-100 for more information on one-time only events. Now we will begin discussing the process of upgrading and downgrading your license as it pertains to an alteration. When an alteration request is submitted, the applicant may need to upgrade or downgrade their license type in order to approve their alteration request. Sometimes an upgrade requires the applicant to pay an additional fee for the new license type. On top of that, the applicant will be required to meet all qualifications regarding the new license type. Now, times where you may need to upgrade include voluntarily restricting minors from your restaurant, which would require you to become either a spirits, beer, wine lounge minus, or if you do not sell spirits, you would go from a beer and wine restaurant to a beer and wine tavern, adding a lounge to your existing restaurant, or expanding floor space to create more lounge area. Now, times where you may need to downgrade your license include wanting to allow minors in a previously minor restricted area, deciding to no longer sell spirits at your restaurant, and in this case, you would downgrade to a beer and wine restaurant, removing a lounge or bar counter, and expanding floor space to create more dedicated dining area. Now, a majority of the time, most upgrades or downgrades will be regarding spirits, beer, and wine restaurants. So I wanted to discuss each type of spirits, beer, and wine license offered and talk about the dining requirements for each. Now, this is just one example. Like I stated previously, there are scenarios where you may actually downgrade to a tavern or a beer wine restaurant. As far as spirits, beer, wine restaurants go, we offer 3 different types of licenses. The service bar, which carries an annual fee of $1,000, the Lounge Plus, which carries an annual fee of $1,600, and the Lounge Minus, which carries an annual fee of $2,000. As you can see, the dedicated dining requirements are different for each license. The service bar license requires 100% dedicated dining, and there can be no minor restrictions of any kind. The Lounge Plus license requires 50 to 99% dedicated dining, and you must allow minors in the dedicated dining area. There will also need to be barriers up separating the bar or lounge from the dining, and as we discussed earlier, the barriers must be a minimum of 42 inches high. The Lounge Minus license is very similar to the Lounge Plus license. However, it requires less than 50% dedicated dining, and you have the option to voluntarily restrict minors, which would mean you have 0% dedicated dining. Also, if your dedicated dining area makes up less than 15% of your restaurant, you will be required to restrict minors from the premises. If you would like more information regarding spirits, beer, and wine restaurants and minor restrictions, refer to WACs 314-02-014 and 314-02-020. Now, I wanted to go over some of the definitions of the areas we mentioned in the previous slide. Dedicated dining area is known as the part of the restaurant where minors are permitted. We do not consider areas dedicated to live music or entertainment as dedicated dining areas. The lounge or bar area is known as the part of the restaurant where minors are restricted. There must be clear separation between lounge or bar area and dedicated dining area using barriers. The game area is known as the part of the restaurant dedicated to games or gaming devices. Examples include arcade games like pinball or pool tables. If the game area is located where the dedicated dining is, it must be separated by barriers. Minors can access the game areas as long as it is not located in the lounge or bar area, but there must be barriers separating it from dining. If you would like more information, refer to WAC 314-02-025. All right, let's talk about added activities. Added activities can be found on our website in the same spot the alteration request form is found. When you want permission to add a specific activity to your liquor license, you will need to fill out an added activities form. The most common added activities requested are live entertainment, alcohol delivery, and internet sales. We have added activity forms for multiple license types, and each license allows different activities. Make sure you are requesting added activities permitted by your license type. Once you fill out the form completely, submit the form to our Liquor Alterations email. Now let's go over live entertainment. Can your license type add live entertainment? If you look at this chart, if you are licensed as a tavern, beer and wine restaurant, snack bar, or spirits beer and wine restaurant, you can add live entertainment. However, if you are licensed as a spirits, beer, and wine service bar, and you request live entertainment, you will be required to upgrade your license to a Lounge Plus, which will carry an added fee. If you would like live entertainment, fill out the added activities form completely and submit the form to our alterations email. You will need to check yes to whatever types of entertainment you would like to offer and no to the types you do not want to offer. If you allow minors and want live entertainment, you will either need to restrict minors at 11 p.m. or remove alcohol from the dining area and only serve alcohol in the bar or lounge area. For more information, refer to WAC 314-02-025 regarding live entertainment. Now we are going to move on to alcohol delivery and internet sales. Now this one is sort of tricky because some license types allow for these activities without the need of an off-premises endorsement, such as the grocery store and beer and wine specialty shop licenses, while some do require an off-premises endorsement, like the tavern and beer and wine restaurant licenses, in order to request this activity. If your license requires the off-premises endorsement, you would need to submit an application to the LCB for added endorsement along with $120 to pay for the endorsement. Before I go over requirements of alcohol delivery, I wanted to give an example where you would request alcohol delivery or internet sales. For example, we see grocery stores beginning to request this more often to let their customers order groceries online along with their alcohol for delivery to their home. Now, the requirements for alcohol delivery are as follows. All purchases must be by persons who are 21 or older. The purchases must be prepaid at the premises, and the third-party delivery person may not collect money for alcohol or tobacco. For example, if you are wanting to start a business where you deliver alcohol from a retail store to a customer, you may not do this. If you do not actually work for the liquor licensed retailer, you may not collect money from the customer. If you were to pay the retailer for the alcohol when you picked it up and then collected the money from the customer, it would be considered selling without a license. The deliveries must be made only to people 21 or older, and the employee delivering the alcohol must also be 21 or over. And the board may withdraw the approval at any time if problems arise. Please refer to WAC 314-03 for more information on alcohol delivery. Now let's get into internet sales. Requirements for internet sales are as follows. The actual transaction has to occur at the licensed retail location by the retailer. The sale and delivery can only be made to persons over the age of 21. If your items are shipped via an alternate carrier, it must be stamped with a notice that the shipment contains alcohol, and it may not be delivered to anyone under the age of 21. And you must have an agreement with the common carrier to ask for ID at the time of delivery. Now we will talk about third-party internet sales. First, let's define what a third-party internet provider is. A third-party internet provider allows for the sale or delivery of alcohol online without having to physically be at the licensed premise. You may only use third-party providers which have been approved by the board. You can find out that information by contacting your third-party provider. If you list a third-party provider not currently approved by the board, the provider will be reviewed by a liquor licensing supervisor before the internet sales can be approved. Other requirements in order to use a third-party internet provider are as follows. The actual purchase must occur at the licensed retail location or through a point-of-sale system contracted with the retailer and approved through the board. Internet, phone, or mail orders accompanied by cash, charge card, or customer's charge account number have been determined acceptable to meet this requirement. You must also meet all the requirements stated on the previous slide. Okay, so after listening to this presentation, you should now have more knowledge regarding the following: how and when to submit a retail, liquor, alteration, or added activity, requirements when submitting an alteration for outside service or a sidewalk cafe, as well as required documents for those, what to do when requesting one-time only events at your licensed premise, upgrading or downgrading your license type, restricting minors from your premises, requesting live entertainment, alcohol delivery, and internet sales. Here is our contact information here at the LCB. If you have any questions, contact us at the phone number you see here. You can also submit any questions on our website listed below. For any information on our future classes, please see our website at the link shown. This is where you will also be able to see previously completed classes along with the posted questions and answers. Some classes coming up soon are Understanding Cannabis Licensing Forms, Nonprofit Organizations and Special Occasion Licenses, Non-Retail Liquor Licenses, and Business Structure Changes. That is the end of the slideshow portion of our webinar. You may continue to send any questions you have via chat to everyone. We are working diligently to gather all the questions submitted, and we are going to try and answer as many as possible before the webinar ends at 3 p.m. All questions and answers from today will be posted on our website within approximately 2 weeks. You will also receive a survey. Please give us feedback and let us know how we can improve this experience for you. Oops. Oh. All right, now we're going to hold for a brief moment. We're going to get your questions together. We will be back shortly. So much for holding. We have some questions here that we're going to answer. The first question we have is they're asking about openings into the outside area cannot exceed 10 feet horizontally or vertically or both. It's going to be horizontally. We're talking about from left to right. So your opening cannot exceed 10 feet that way. The next question is asking, the license type of winery was not included in the added activity slide. What are the restrictions, if any? And unless you have a retail license, the added activities are included in your winery license. The next question we have is, do I send in a plan for alterations to get approved before I do the alterations to make sure that they are compliant, and then send photos when it's done to get licensed? Actually, what you're going to do is you're going to send in your alteration, your plan for alterations, before you begin altering your premise. And what you're going to do is you're going to send in photos of the areas that are going to be affected. So, for example, if you're going to be tearing down a wall, you would want to make sure we would just want to see a picture of the wall you are tearing down. And then once we get approval, once we send out conditional approval, then you can begin tearing down that wall. And then when you schedule your final inspection with your enforcement officer, at that point, all of your alterations that we conditionally approved should be completed. Now the last question I have here so far is, we have an alcohol shipping account with UPS, and the driver has told me not to use the over 21 sticker because that info is on the barcode on the shipping label. So in this specific situation, you would still need to be in compliance with us. So the independent contractors, they have their specific things, but we require the sticker to be on there. Okay, so I have a question here that's asking what the difference is between a beer garden and an outdoor service area. The big difference is going to be that the outdoor service area is going to be something that is permanent. You're requesting the outside service to be able to use all the time, whereas a beer garden would be something that we would consider as a one-time only event. You would be contacting your enforcement officer if you wanted to do a temporary event, just like a one-day event. That would be considered a beer garden, whereas with the outside service area, that is something that's going to be more of a permanent stable, and you're requesting to have that outside service area attached to your restaurant for as long as you're in business. Another question we have here is, what type of licensing do you need in order to sell beer to the public at a different location? You cannot sell alcohol. You can only do it at your licensed location. So if you are trying to sell at a different location, that is something you cannot do. Can a server be dedicated to the outdoor service area, but can they also be serving inside? Yes, you can. You can serve inside as well as outside. You just need to make sure that there is a server dedicated to that outside area when people are out there consuming alcohol or eating food. The next question we have is, we have a beer, wine, spirits, restaurant, and lounge license. We want to have a beer garden in our parking lot once a month in the summer. What process do I need to follow to get approval? This would be something you would want to contact your enforcement officer and discuss this with them, and they would be able to give you approval for your beer garden that you are proposing. They will they would be your point of contact on that. And if you don't know who your liquor enforcement officer is, you can always call us and we can provide you that information. All right, the next question is, we are going to fence off the area, no improvements. Do we work with our enforcement officer or the license department? So, yeah, in that situation, it depends, because if it's going to be a one-time only event, then you would want to contact your enforcement officer. However, if you are planning on fencing off an area that you would like to have outside service at, then that would for more than just a one-time only event, then that would be, you would submit an alteration request to our alterations email. Special event like a festival that has service areas, what are the requirements to allow a speakeasy with spirits in a third spot located in part of a large space?
So with this one, a special event, it kind of sounds like it's not at a licensed premise, and so it would most likely be like a special occasion license, which would be a nonprofit that would hold this. A retail license can't change locations or float their license out to another location. And so that would be something different. So a nonprofit could get a license to have a special event at another location and sell alcohol, and that would have to be acquired by a nonprofit, not by a retail licensee. And then a follow-up says we would like to host an event at a different location. Could we sell admission tickets for an entry that include beer in that cost? So that comes back to a retail licensee cannot do that because your license does not travel with you. For an event like that, it would have to be a nonprofit having a special occasion event license where they would sell the alcohol themselves, not a retailer.
Mm-hmm. And then we got a question asking if all the slides, if they are all going to be available after the presentation. The answer is yes. However, it will be about 2 weeks for the presentation to be uploaded onto our website, as well as the questions and answers that we are not able to get to in this hour. Again, asking if there's any information available on beer and wine service with a catering license.
So catering license, it doesn't really relate to alterations. The catering license there's two different options. If you have a certain license type, you can add it on as an endorsement, or we have the actual liquor catering license. And so all of that information is on our website on what the requirements are. But what you would have to do is you would have to have, if you're just getting the catering license, you would have to have a location to where you would have a kitchen. It does not have to be open to the public, but you have to have a spot where you can work out of. There is a beer, and wine option for that. But like I said, that's all on our website for more information on that one. And then the slides, we cannot go back through the slides, but they, like we said, they will be available in the next couple weeks for you to review those.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Okay, and the question is, we have a wine, hold on, where's that? Okay, we have a winery and want to host a concert. Can we charge tickets? So if it's at the winery location and it's the winery putting on the event, then yes, they can sell tickets.
Okay, so we got a question asking if we could go over what you need to do in order to add an outside service area. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to need to submit an alteration request to our liquor alterations email, and then you're going to need to submit floor plans and photos, and we actually have all of the floor plan and photo requirements on the alteration request form, and you will also need to submit a lease agreement with your alteration request showing that you have leasehold rights to the outside service area. And you can find the application for the alteration request form on our website at lcb.wa.gov. I also wanted to answer this question that we got asking if a licensed location can serve from a jockey box. For example, they just had an anniversary party at their brewery, and there were so many people coming to the brewery that we would like to be able to set up a jockey box and serve from this at a different area than our usual service counter. Now, if you are wanting to have a one-time temporary bar set up in your approved outside seating area, you will have to check with your liquor enforcement officer for approval. They will also evaluate if you will need barriers around the temporary serving location.
So we had a follow-up question regarding the nonprofit selling alcohol at an event, and they want to know if they can have bottle sales at that. The nonprofit could sell bottles if they requested that on their application, but like I said, it would be the nonprofit that would be selling that. And for special occasion questions, we do have more information on our website at lcb.wa.gov. And also, there will be a webinar coming up in April that talks about special occasions.
Minutes left in the presentation. I have a question here that is asking if they can deliver beer and wine with drop-off catering if they have spirits beer wine license on premise and off premise. You can do internet sales for beer and wine, but you cannot do internet sales for spirits.
There's a question that says food truck license needed for dispensing liquor and wine at private events. So that's a little, you can't do a food truck that has alcohol. That's not legal in Washington. You have to have a brick and mortar building where you're serving alcohol out of. As far as like dispensing liquor and wine at a private party, you can have a catering license for that, but the private party is not advertised, not open to the public. It's an invite only, like weddings, birthday parties, that kind of thing. So the next question is, if a nonprofit hosted our event, then they could sell the beer and keep the profits. Could we then sell the admission tickets to the event? So with this, the nonprofit has to be involved in the event. It's not just your event. It's also the nonprofit's event because they're the ones that get the liquor license. So they would be the only one selling alcohol. You would not be selling the alcohol. They would have to purchase the beer from you and then sell it themselves, and they would take in all of the profits from the alcohol sales. You would not, the only profit you would get would be from them purchasing it from you for the event. And no, you could not sell the tickets. They would have to sell the tickets if it included the alcohol in it. And then we got this question again, is it possible for a brewery to operate an outdoor beer garden at a location other than the liquor license premise? And that's no. And it says, could they not contract with a liquor license caterer? So a liquor license caterer can only cater at a nonprofit event. So a nonprofit is having an event that they're holding. They can hire a caterer to come in as long as it's not at another licensed premise to serve the alcohol and food if they want them to. Or a caterer can go into a private event, like I said before, where it's not advertised, not open to the public, such as like a birthday party or a wedding.
Okay, so we have no more questions coming in. So this concludes our presentation. hopefully you learned a lot. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we're going to have it posted in 2 weeks. We're going to have it posted in 2 weeks in the licensing classes section of our website. And if you need any assistance finding that, you can give us a call at our customer service line, and we will be able to assist you with that. Thank you so much for joining this webinar, and have a great day.